All right, we are live. What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman doing a live stream right after the game tonight. It's prime time. I figured why not hop out, talk about the game as soon as it ends, and why not, oh shoot, did the live just start? What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman. We're gonna be doing a live stream tonight, right after the game. We're gonna see. Test out this kind of thing. I've never really done a live stream after a game before. I've done it a couple times. I think I did it after the Patriots game last year, after the Patriots wild card victory. So I figured why not try it right now. Definitely want to touch on a couple things instead of, maybe doing a pre-recorded video that I usually chop up. I figured why not try doing a live stream following the game immediately. See what kind of things we could talk about. Because there was a couple things that I wanted to break down from this game, get my thoughts, out there, get them to you guys. And I wanted to, exchange those thoughts with you guys as well. Because there's definitely a lot that I wanted to cover. And with that in mind, let me just be sure that I'm getting this tweeted out. And then we will be going and hopping into a couple things because there certainly was some stuff that I wanted to break down. Sunday Night Football, I'm thinking to myself, I could perhaps, just make a video per usual, but, just so late at night having to, figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow, get a video out on time. I figured why not go live and talk about the game, right after the fact, get some raw thoughts instead of, doing so much of an, a deep dive. Why not just talk about what happened raw? So yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. If there's any, for anybody that pops in, if you want to say hello, be sure to drop a comment, do anything. If you have any thoughts right after the game, be sure you're dropping it down in the comment section. This is going to be driven by you guys. And I'm just going to, get it out there, tweet it out real quick, and then we'll really start to get into my thoughts after the game. But it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty in the slightest bit. We squeaked by. I would say squeak by is a good way to put it because things could have gotten ugly at the end of the game there if the Packers were of any sort of caliber comparative to us. I mean, they usually are. I mean, if this is a Packers team that we're used to seeing in the NFL on a yearly basis, this is not, may not go in our favor. And, Brett Coleman put it perfectly. If this was a game that we were able to, if this was a game we put on against, the Eagles, the Packers, or the Eagles, the Chiefs, any of these other top echelon teams, if this is a game we go out and, we perform like this, it's going to be ugly. We don't come out on top for sure. Post game reactions. All right. Live after the game. All right. NFL. Bills. Okay. Get that in there. Okay. All right, yeah. So let's start with a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. We come out on top 27-17. Like I was saying, we did not play the best second half football. The first half we came out firing. There was we came out with that energy that we've been seeing, guys like Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen carry on a regular week to week basis. It was this ferocious, like I'm gonna slice your head off type energy. That's what we came out with. Before the game even started, we saw Stephon Diggs running out with the Packers team jawing back and forth with Jair Alexander, and he was fired up, and you could see that energy was contagious and it was carrying with the rest of the football team. And that's how we played in the first half. That's the type of energy we carried. And in the second half, it just kind of wandered away, we started to get away from, the simple stuff. The run game really stopped working. Josh Allen wasn't taking what he was given. He kind of had that problem for a majority of the game, if we're being honest. He was looking to chuck a lot more than we're used to him seeing nowadays. I think the slow, methodical type offense is definitely taking precedent. But, today he definitely got away from taking from what he was given. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Especially later in the second half, there were plays that he took a shot down the field where he probably shouldn't have, where he was trying to force a ball into an area that wasn't necessary. But going back to the point of, the precedent of this short dink and dunk offense, this, take what you're given type of mindset is definitely where the Bills offense has been predicated on. And with that being said, so the Green Bay Packers in the first half, they were pretty they were pretty much relying on Aaron Jones. I thought he might end up leaving this game with 55 touches. He ended up leaving the game with he had Green Bay receiving. Aaron Jones had 4 receptions and 20 carries. Aaron Jones had 24 touches. AJ Dillon had 10. And then he had 1 through the air. He had 11. So their running backs pretty much taking up a majority of their touches, which is to be expected. That's kind of what we expected from the Packers in general this season. In this game, they really relied on him. And in the third quarter, had they not chewed their entire clock, then we could have had a game that was a lot closer down the stretch. But for some reason in the third quarter, they seemed very content with handing the ball off, taking their sweet time, getting back to the line of scrimmage, and then doing it again. I understand that they were garnering a lot of yards. Hey, Bill. What's going on, man? Go Bills. I know we come out with a victory. It wasn't the most pretty, but go Bills. That's right. We end up with the win. I'm not too stressed about the way it went down the stretch. I think these are all fixable things that, if we may have a concern, these are things that we are going to straighten out. But it's still worthy of mentioning, right? A lot of people were concerned in the second half, especially in that third quarter where, they were just lining up, and it almost gave me, 2021 Patriots, Monday Night Football game vibes where, it was the windstorm and the Patriots were just running it every down. That's the kind of vibe I was getting in the third quarter from the Packers. And we just, for some reason, weren't able to really shut it down. And some people, were upset with that, rightfully so. The way I looked at it as, some people were saying, you know what, they're wasting their own clock. They're not really doing much to threaten us deep down the field. And that's fine. That's what I was acceptable with. As long as the Packers are chewing their own clock, they're not really taking us deep down the field, I'm going to be fine with them, running the ball. Obviously, Tremaine Edmonds didn't have his best performance to date. I think this was probably his worst game of the year. Thankfully, we have Matt Milano playing by his side. If Matt Milano wasn't there, then, that linebacking core could look a lot weaker. But Matt Milano comes out and plays like an all-pro on a week-to-week basis. So he's able to make up for whenever Tremaine Edmonds is, having a couple brain farts. But the bad tackling was a big issue too. There were quite a few missed tackles where we weren't able to bring down guys between the tackles. Aaron Jones was slipping away a few times. Bill says it was not our best W, but sometimes even great teams only win by the 10 point spread. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was not our best win, but whatever gets it done gets it done. We started out hot. The second half, I think we got a combination of complacent. And just kind of, understood that the Packers were imposing much of a threat. So we didn't feel like we needed to keep our foot on their neck. And I think we saw the result of that. Going back to the point of the Packers just constantly running the ball. I know like I said, some people had problem with it. I didn't take too much, issue with it just for the fact that the offense was moving the ball, whenever we had it. And on top of the fact that the Packers were not posing a threat deep down the field. So, chew your own clock. I think if they handled the third quarter a little bit differently, that game could have been different in the fourth. They were down 10 points with a minute left and they were trying to drive. And then Mason Crosby ended up missing that 55-yarder. Hypothetically, if, in that third quarter, they chew up all that clock and they come away with a touchdown on one of those drives, things could have been a lot different deep down the stretch. Connor says, lucky Bill sweatshirt. Shut up. You were worried the whole game for no reason. I wouldn't even. You were worried from the second, we scored our first touchdown. You were probably sitting there biting your teeth, scared that we were going to lose that game for some reason. We were never going to lose. It just could have been a lot prettier. Like he says, second half was a little disappointing. Yeah, I was just touching on it. It definitely killed the vibe. I was, I came out of the first half expecting to come on live after the fact and just talk about all the crazy plays that we had going for us and the fact that we were up by 45 points halfway through the third quarter. But, lo and behold, the second half was, it was what it was. And it, like I said, it kind of killed the vibe. I think there was a massive energy going into this game, Sunday night primetime game. And we're going against, Aaron Rodgers, the Hall of Famer. A lot to look forward to with this matchup. And we don't usually see games under the lights, at least not over the last decade or so. And it was very, very exciting. And we, I was touching on this point earlier. The team came out with this ferocious, fiery attitude. And we saw it with Diggs. We saw it with Gabe Davis. We saw it with Josh. Josh on that one carry where he got down to the one. He got up after getting rocked and he's just laughing. And he's maniacally laughing. The dude's a psycho. And he's just laughing after getting rocked. Like, this is the energy that we're used to seeing this team play with. And that flame just kind of slowly burnt out in the second half. Once Stephon Diggs caught that deep ball, he bit his tongue. I feel like that was almost when things just kind of went south, for the offense at least. And, we didn't see that same kind of attitude. We weren't making the easy plays, and the run game stopped working. I don't get what happened late game. I don't either. I think complacency is the best way to put it. Jordan Poyer, of course, going down later on, was a big reason why that Toure guy was able to get wide open in the back of the end zone. The pass rush wasn't getting to Aaron Rodgers as much in the second half either, I noticed. I wish ESPN would divide statistics based on uh halftime and stuff. But I mean, it was weird. I mean, we came out first half, the run game was working. James Cook, we'll touch on that. James Cook, um, I was very pleased with James Cook. There were many positives to be taken from this game, many negatives, but the one big thing that I feel like we're continuously seeing is James Cook make flashes, make plays that are flashes, of confidence. And I've been preaching this, since the first couple of weeks when James Cook got his first touch and he fumbled. I think James Cook is an extremely talented running back. I think he's an extremely talented pass catcher. You get the ball to him in space, and he's going to make something happen. That's what we brought him in for. We carved out this role of a third down back type of guy, somebody that's a change of pace. Just try and get creative with a guy like him. And I think, James Cook has been struggling with just getting acclimated to the NFL level, just being able to realize, like, hey, I can hang with these guys. I can play at this level. And I think he just needs to have a few plays where he can just get the wheels spinning and he doesn't feel like he's stuck in a mud pit. And once he's able to get to that point, I think he's really going to start to break out of his shell. And I'm looking forward to seeing that from James Cook. And we saw in that drag route, it wasn't really a drag. It was like a medium crosser to some capacity. It was just kind of a broken play, but James Cook got loose. He got behind the linebackers, and there was no people in the secondary to pick up on him. And he had a big catch and run. Like, these are the type of plays that he needs to really boost that confidence, and then he'll start to take on a bigger and bigger role, and we'll be able to utilize him in different situations. So I'm very happy to see that from James Cook. A couple questions that I wanted to touch on. Mikey says, especially the sloppy passes second half, lazy picks thrown. Yeah, Josh didn't look like himself in the second half. It looked like he started to question. Some passes. He wasn't confident. I'm not sure exactly what he was seeing deep down the field when he was dropping back, but it didn't seem like he was confident making his reads and going through his progression. And once the play broke down, we're used to him being able to make something happen. And in a situation like today, we really didn't need anything ridiculous. We could have taken what we had. And he started to force stuff that didn't need to be forced, and we saw the result of it. I mean, Josh Allen threw it probably was a perfect passer rating away from the first half and the second half because he just felt like he had to do too much. It's something I call superhero syndrome. I call it's something that a lot of quarterbacks tend to adopt. They feel like they have to overcompensate for something they feel like is going wrong, or maybe there's players on the offense that they don't feel are doing something right. So they just, in their own minds, they feel like they have to pick up the slack. And I think Josh Allen was a big victim of the Superman syndrome earlier in his career. Now it's gotten a lot better. But today I feel like there were just moments where, Josh, you got help, or you just need to be more confident in yourself, or you just need to take what you're given, and we're going to be just fine. But yeah, a lot of weight, poor throws, very sloppy throws. Justin says, "Do we get Trey back next week?" I don't know. I'm gonna say no. Mikey says I think he's ready, but we should rest him till Vikings game. Yeah, I don't think I think we're gonna hold him out one more game. If I'm not mistaken, who do we play next week? Bills schedule. Do we play the Jets? Probably. I think it's the Jets, right? Yeah, we get the Jets next week. I wouldn't be shocked if we waited one more week. Not because I think the Jets are poor. They're not great. They lost their identity, and Breece Hall and Zach Wilson's looking like a complete dumpster fire. But I think we wait. There's no reason to rush him back. We're obviously going to be making the postseason. It would take a dramatic collapse for that to happen. The first seed is of course priority, but at the end of the day, I don't think we're going to risk Trey White's health for something like that. But yeah, I think Trey White still misses next game, and then he can return to the Vikings game, which I assume is the one following. Yep. Pokemon, what's up, man? I'm trying to get to everybody. If you guys have any comments, be sure to drop them. I'm, going to run right through these with all of you guys. Robert, what's going on, man? How you doing? Kim, happy for the win. Nice first half, sloppy offensive second half. Yeah, we'll fix it. These are all things that I'm not entirely worried about personally. All fixable stuff that we haven't really seen in the past, so I'm not worried. Bill says positives. Whole first half, Cook, Singletary, McKenzie used well. Yes, McKenzie was a nice, breath of fresh air in comparison to the McKenzie we've been seeing. I've been a big advocate of bench McKenzie and send him off to like somewhere else until we never see him again. Nicely, respectfully, if you will. I love McKenzie's personality. He's a great locker room guy, but I think we've all gotten to a point where McKenzie, stop. Like, what are you doing? Get out. Like, where's Khalil? But nevertheless, he did. He was utilized well today. He had that initial touch that, he ran in the backfield for like 14 yards behind the line of scrimmage and then almost got back to the LOS, but eventually was dropped. That really wasn't his fault, but, he was able to get the ball in that, trickery handoff that eventually went in the end zone. He kind of stutter stepped an extra second and was able to get by Adrian Amos. That was a nice touchdown. I give him credit for that. He had a couple catches over the middle, which he was able to secure. But it's the same thing with Isaiah McKenzie, a nice performance today, but he's still a guy that I'm not going to trust to make a play in a big moment. I can still say that with confidence. He's a guy that I'm looking to, replace down the stretch. I know we're in the market for a running back. Apparently we kicked the tires with Christian McCaffrey for a second round pick that did not go to plan, obviously, which is completely fine. And then we also apparently called about Alvin Kamara to some capacity. I'm not sure what we offered for him, but we're obviously in the market for a running back. In my opinion, I think we should be in the market for a new slot receiver, and I think that man should be Odell Beckham Jr. I'm not saying we go and trade for anybody, but I think Odell needs to be the guy that is filling that slot role, and he can help another team come, win a Super Bowl. So that's what I'm really hoping is the big transaction for the Bills on the stretch here is, forget the running back. I think James Cook will come into his own. I think Devin's doing a perfectly fine job taking on the heavy workload. I want us to bring in another slot guy that I can feel very confident giving the keys to, because the slot wide receiver role, we all remember Cole Beasley was, a very prominent part of this offense. He was a very important piece to Josh Allen's development. And having a guy like Isaiah McKenzie, who we originally thought would be able to kind of flourish in this role, the inconsistencies, the lack of trust, it's definitely something to be, concerning of. And, down the stretch, the margin for error is only going to shrink. And Isaiah McKenzie has been one of those guys on our offense that has been full of those errors. So a little tangent on that. Bill says negative sloppy tackling. Tackling was piss poor, starting with Tremaine Edmonds. Of course, he's caught a lot of shit on social media already. That's the Tremaine Edmonds discourse. We all are familiar with it. But sloppy tackling all around. I thought Matt Milano was fantastic. If Matt Milano's not in our linebacking group, we definitely have a weak unit there if Tremaine Edmonds is having any kind of an off game. Not to mention Josh INT's flat play. Yep, we talked about that. What do you think happened to the offense in the second half? Mentally flat? Yeah, I think long story short, it just came, it's complacency. The offensive line didn't, run block as well as they were in the first half. And, of course, the run game opened up the deep ball in the first half as well, the way we were able to run it. Devin Singletary started out hot, and then, Josh was just able to fling it over the top of everybody's head. So that worked out. But the second half, I think things got a little bit tougher when the run game wasn't working. So they knew we were going to drop back to pass. And the, Packers secondary, for the most part, is not full of a bunch of slouches. I mean, the Packers defense, in my mind, was supposed to be a top 5 unit. I think Adrian Amos is, one of the better safeties in the NFL. They, of course, got Jair Alexander, who we got very familiar with today. Eric Stokes, I think, is a top 20, top 22 corner, which is, still pretty solid. They got guys back there that I think are dogs. They got Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith up there in age, but still just, churning. They got a good defense, long story short. So, we weren't perfect, and we saw the trials and tribulations of Josh Allen trying to do a little bit too much. But, I think it was just complacency at the end of the day. And, that Superman syndrome that I was kind of touching on prior that Josh was kind of suffering from. Pokemon says Aaron Rodgers, still incredible. Yeah, I mean, he did what he could, right? I'm going to take this clicker away. It's annoying. Aaron Rodgers did what he could, man. I mean, he didn't get much help. Obviously, he doesn't get much help. The play calling was not in his favor, especially in the third quarter. We were already kind of touching on it. You would think, considering the circumstances they were in, they would probably show some more urgency in a game where they were down, 17 points at one point, and they were running the ball, run the ball. Understandably, nobody was getting much separation. They weren't seeing much down the field, but, that's not a recipe for victory. You're waving the white flag, in my opinion. They waved the white flag in the third quarter when they were doing all that. And, by the fourth quarter, when they actually seemed like there was a glimpse of daylight to try and pull something out of their ass, they weren't able to do it because of the way they handled the third quarter. And I think that's another strike on the Matt LaFleur resume as of late. Matt LaFleur is somebody that I think deserves to have the microscope, zoomed in on him. He's a guy that a lot of people have respect for. He's supposed to be the best LaFleur in the NFL right now, but we, of course, got Mike LaFleur over with the Jets, who's been killing it as of late. But this is a team that, we all thought they were still going to be returning to form regardless of not having Devontae Adams, but things have been going south from the special teams unit, which has had struggles since last season. They've been struggling this year. The defense has, of course, not lived up to expectations, and the offense has been more than flat. So I think Matt LaFleur deserves to be looked at, under the microscope. In that third quarter, that play calling, the way things were handled, another X on the resume, in my opinion. I would not be too pleased if I was a Packers fan right now. Justin says we need to play better, not play stupid once we are up. I agree. We got to keep the foot on the necks of our opponents. We've been good about that all season, though. So, this is one of those games that, I kind of expected from the Bills. Of course, we have gotten to a level of play where we do not, when we stoop below our best level, it's still extremely, extremely high level football. So when we stoop below our level today, we still were able to get the job done because that's just how good we are at this point. It's, it's just the facts of it. And that's fine. We're not going to play perfect each and every game. Last year, our perfect was very, very good. But when we stooped below our level of play, we saw games like the Patriots where they didn't pass the ball a single game. We saw games like the Jaguars. We see games that, last year in specifics, we see games that are just not to the level we were used to, and it wasn't good enough to get the job done. But this time around, this season, we've gotten to a level that is so above the clouds, right? That if we fall just below the clouds, that we're still going to be fine. We're not falling from the sky at that point. So, that's a good thing. This 27-17 victory. I mean, we don't feel good about it. We don't feel great, I should say. I feel fine. I'm not upset, but it's not necessarily the way you would have thought it would have been handled. But we still won the game. We didn't look great, and we still won. So it's still always the positive, right? Slinksy says, Josh Allen had a bad game and still won. Usually when Allen plays bad, we lose. Only 200 yards in our run game was good. Yeah, I mean, we were just kind of touching on that. It wasn't a fantastic showing, but we still got the job done. Big plays were made. We made a couple fourth down stops, which needs to be taken into account. We weren't able to stop the run at points in this game, but when it really mattered, there were 2 fourth downs. Very first drive, we make a stop on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, who were kind of driving down the field relatively well. And the defense comes out and makes a fourth and 4 stop or something in no man's land, and we were able to force a turnover after the offense went 3 and out. Or punted. But so that was big. And then later on in the game, they had a 4th and 2, 4th and 3. They were gashing us on the ground. And what do the Packers do? They go right back to Aaron Jones. Aaron Rodgers turns it around, gives it to Jones, and we stuff them for 2 to 3 yard loss. I mean, they might have been gashing us all game, but those were 2 humongous plays, that were very important in this game. And it might not have seemed like it just because of the boring way it went down the stretch and the way we handled it, but they were big. They were big. Wayne says the Bills will be at the Jets next week, but the team that makes me nervous is the Vikings. It's going to be a great game because both the Bills and the Vikings will be 7-1. Let's not speak too soon. All right. We do expect to beat the Jets, but we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. We got to take it one game at a time. It's something we struggled with last year. Not taking every game at a time is something that we need to learn as a championship roster. Let's just keep that in mind. But assuming, fair enough to Wayne, though, you'd like to think we leave next week with another victory at 7-1. I'm not sure who the Vikings play against next week, but that's a big game on our schedule. I personally, I find the Vikings to be a very fraudulent 6-1 at the moment. They're one of the most, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't strike me as a convincing, one-loss team. We're a one-loss team, and we're the best team in the NFL. The Vikings are a one-loss team as well. I think they might be top 7. I'd have to make my power rankings again, but it's not a convincing top 7. It's not, they haven't won games by large margins. They lost, they lost one game to the Eagles, who were the only team probably in the realm of, the upper echelon that they've played up to this point. And they got their pants pulled down on Monday Night Football. Kirk Cousins looked like a high school quarterback, and they got decimated. I mean, that's probably the best competition. That is the best competition they played. And Primetime Kirk came out and played as he always does. So the Vikings are not a convincing 7-1 team, 6-1 team. Not to get ahead of ourselves here, but yeah, it's definitely a team that we're gonna have to play good football against to take down. But today they played who the Vikings play against today. I've been having a very hard time remembering things. The Vikings played against the Cardinals. The Cardinals. That was not an easy. They did not walk. I remember now. They did not walk out of that Cardinals game convincingly winning. They did have the lead for a majority of that game, but the Cardinals gave them hell. So another game against a team that's been struggling, that they don't destroy. I think it was a fine showing, but I'm not big on the Vikings recently. Robert says, I love Singletary's usage. I did as well. Singletary's been getting the larger workload that I think a lot of us have been preaching for him to have. I remember last year, I'm just yelling at the television screen, why is anybody other than not even just Zach Moss, but I mean, Devin Singletary deserves the ball, deserves the workload that he's been getting now. He's deserved it his entire career. His rookie season, he would have been a 1,000-yard rusher had he not gotten injured. And just after that, we drafted Zach Moss. And, the rest is history. We just didn't use him at the rate I felt like he deserved to be used at. He's a guy that can handle, this is a strong word nowadays, but I think he's a player that can handle a bell cow type of role in every down back. He's a guy that is able to be, he's very good in pass protection. He's something that he's had to get better at as his career has gone on, but he's gotten very good in pass protection, in my opinion. He's obviously gotten better in the receiving game. And of course, his running ability has been fantastic too. He doesn't have that breakaway speed that a lot of people love. They all want to talk about, breakaway speed, the big plays. I mean, how many running backs nowadays, let's think about this. How many running backs nowadays have that big play ability? I mean, there's Derrick Henry, sometimes Dalvin Cook, sometimes. And, other than that, Christian McCaffrey, of course, he's still up there in the upper echelon of running backs. Jonathan Taylor at this point, you can throw that out the window. I mean, there are not many big play backs in the NFL nowadays. It's just not. Oh, and DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is on that list. Otherwise, it doesn't happen very often. Running backs aren't just ripping off these, 80-yard runs all as often as, some people expect. And it's just not something that happens. I mean, if Devin Singletary can rip off a 20 to 30-yard run every once in a while, that's still good. If he gets tracked down by somebody in the secondary, that's fine. I mean, it's a running back against a safety or a corner. I mean, that's typically what you would expect. I mean, somebody in the secondary should most likely be faster than your running back. That's, or most running backs, I would say. So I mean, that whole narrative of needing somebody with that big playability and somebody with extra speed, it's nice having James Cook. He's definitely that guy we brought in to be that change of pace, but it's not something that I look for as a damning attribute in my running back personally. Travis Etienne, he's been a big play monster recently, but he's not really ripping them off for touchdowns. He gets tracked down. He's had multiple 40-yard runs where he's had daylight and he's getting tracked down. It's just not something that I look for in a running back that is, dire. It's not something that I need in my running back, if that makes sense. Just a side tangent. Mikey says, if you would have told me 5 years ago the Bills would be Super Bowl favorites, have Diggs, MVP favorite, Josh Allen, Von Miller might have OBJ, I'd say you're stupid. It's a Madden team. It is a Madden team. If we add Odell Beckham Jr., we will officially have taken the Madden route. And that's exactly what I want us to do. It's not something that should cost us very much. High risk or high reward, pretty low risk, in my opinion. I don't think we're really sacrificing playing time of somebody that I think deserves it more. Like I said, I'm not too confident in McKenzie. We're at a point in time where I'm just trying to shoot for that Super Bowl. So as much as I want to see Khalil Shakir out there, I want the best guy for the job at every position. Odell Beckham Jr. is that guy. So I'm right there with you. It's a Madden team. That's more than accurate. Carson says, what's up, Carson? Nice to see you in here, man. A couple comments regarding, I would kill for a double-digit victory for my Commanders. We always winning by the skin of our teeth. Look, I picked the Commanders this week. I was on the Commanders bandwagon, and I could not believe the ending of that game. It was like an eerily similar ending to the Falcons-Panthers game, and they came out on top. I was very, very happy to see the Commanders win that game, especially because Terry McLaurin was the one that ended up making the big play at the end. I think Terry McLaurin is a top 12 receiver, top 13 receiver. I'd have to remake my list, but definitely up there. And to see him flourish the way he has over the last couple of weeks, he just embarrassed. He just fathered Jair Alexander last week. I still don't know if he's cleaned up his body yet. And then this week he goes up and embarrasses Stephon Gilmore at the point of attack. I mean, this has been the Terry McLaurin that we all know and love, and it's nice to see him coming back out. And it's funny enough, it's Taylor Heineke that seems to be his revival as of late. It's ironic, but good for him. I want Terry McLaurin to be successful. He signed that big contract, got paid. But he's definitely a guy that I sometimes wish, if he had a gunslinger under center, Terry McLaurin would be he could be upwards of a 1,400-yard receiver. Easy. I mean, the guy's a 1,000 to 1,100 yard receiver given his situation. Just putting him in in a role where he's got somebody that's willing to drop back and hit him in stride over the middle and, do the easy work that some of the quarterbacks for the Commanders haven't been able to do in the past. That would be a miracle for him. But yeah, getting back on track in the game here. Other things that I wanted to touch on. I was not impressed with Oh man, I'm losing my train of thought. I was not that was what I was going to say. I was just not impressed with the offensive line in the second half. I guess long story short, the run game, it really stuttered. That was really, of course, a lot of people were focusing on us not being able to stop their run game. My bigger concern was something that we've been dealing with as of late, which is our struggling run game. That was something that I was a little bothered by, disturbed by. Why all of a sudden could we not run the ball? Why all of a sudden did we have no ability to hand it to Devin Singletary and gain a yard? I mean, Devin Singletary was getting dropped for 2 to 3 yard losses at points. When we were trying to hand it off, that was one of the more frustrating things to me internally. And it's, of course, something that we've struggled with as of late. It's one of those things that, we mentioned all the other stuff that's been going on, like the Josh Allen, poor decisions at points, as well as, not being able to stop the run. Those are two things that we haven't seen really all year. We've stuffed the run majority of the time this season. Josh Allen hasn't been making those types of stupid decisions this season. But, the running game has gotten better. It's improved, but it's another thing that I'm not convinced is fixed. And it's one of those things that I'm not convinced a new running back would really fix. Of course, having a guy like Alvin Kamara or Christian McCaffrey that, would be a Madden team going back to that point. It would be nice. It'd be fun. It'd be cool. It'd be awesome. I'm not going to sit here and lie, but I don't think that necessarily changes everything. The biggest thing that a new running back or a different running back would change is probably the receiving aspect. I mean, I think Devin Singletary does more than a good enough job out of the backfield receiving, but as far as running the ball, I think he's one of the most efficient backs in the NFL. Let's get that straight. He's always been. Devin Singletary is fantastic. He makes guys miss. He's, one of the leaders in missed tackles, forced. He's good. He's very elusive. He's not fast, going back to that point, but he's good enough to get the job done easily. No question about it. And the only thing that I think a new running back would change is the receiving dynamic, and that's fine. That's, more than a positive. But at the end of the day, the running game is really the biggest concern when it comes to bringing in a new running back. So, a guy like Alvin Kamara, he's never been a big workload kind of guy when it comes to the run game. Of course, Alvin Kamara's biggest attribute was, his ability to receive out of the backfield. As far as running the ball, he's never been that good. I mean, he's great. He's amazing. Don't get me wrong, but he's not somebody that I think alters our running game efficiency. Devin Singletary, I think, does a good enough job at it. Christian McCaffrey would probably be on the list of somebody that improves the run game, of course, but by how much? I think Devin Singletary, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara are getting dropped behind the line of scrimmage. It doesn't matter who it is when our offensive line is letting guys up through the A, B, and C gap right as soon as the ball is snapped. It's just something that we're going to have to figure out over time, and just allow Josh Allen the bootlegs, the option plays where, if, having him roll out any type of creativity that we saw today. On the Dawson Knox touchdown, we had Josh Allen roll out. He had the option to run. He had the option to throw, and that really threw off the Packers defense, of course, and Dawson Knox was wide open in the back of the end zone. A couple other instances where that happened as well. But, long story short, I don't think a new running back, depending on who it is, really changes how efficient our run game is, because I think Devin Singletary does a good enough job. What do you think is something that can hurt the Bills this season, like any holes that a team like KC can abuse in a playoff game? That's a good question. I think that a hole that we could potentially, I guess this doesn't answer your question directly, but I think something that could be of concern, God forbid it ever happened, but if Gabe Davis hypothetically went down with an injury again, we know he hurt his ankle earlier this season. Stephon Diggs, of course, he's been healthy for the most part, but God forbid one of those two guys went down. We got a different offense, very different offense, and we saw the effects of that earlier this year when Gabe went down. So, I think that's something that really, our receiver depth could at points be concerning. I wouldn't necessarily say that's something that can be exposed or abused. Kind of not is your answer to that question. I'll get back to that once I kind of think about it. But I think an area of concern could be our receiver depth. I think if we're not able to stop the run, that could be something that's abused. Of course, Von Miller, Greg Rousseau are lining up on the outside for the most part, and they're good enough in the run game to stop the run game. But if teams are going to gash us, if the Chiefs are able to come out and gash us that way, and then that opens up the passing game over the middle for Patrick Mahomes, and Tremaine Edmonds isn't necessarily playing fantastic, or Jordan Poyer is, not getting much help. I know DeMar Hamlin's been playing decent, but we got to watch out for Jordan Poyer's health. Trey White, of course, getting him back will be of assistance. But at the end of the day, I think our biggest man, that's a tough one. Any holes? Man, I guess. Man, I honestly, the fact that I can't come up with an answer right away is a very good thing. I don't know if you had something in mind, definitely throw it down there. I guess, like I said, it would have to be a hole exposed due to an external factor. Like I said, if Gabe Davis suddenly re-injured his ankle, or for some reason Jordan Poyer wasn't healthy, come that time, those are things that I think could get easily exposed, because, being able to replace those type of guys it's difficult. But other than that, I mean, we've been stuffing the run all season. Our secondary's been playing very well. Our offense has been destroying teams. So I don't know. I think we're fine, I guess, is the best way of putting it. I can't really think of an answer to that question right now, which is a very good thing. I guess, long story short, if we can't stop the run, that could become problematic, especially if Tremaine Edmonds isn't having his best game and the bad tackling is starting to rear its ugly head. I think stopping the run could be of concern at points, but otherwise, I'm having a hard time answering the question, truthfully. Justin says, I wonder what Jair said. The Bills seem to be mentally prepared to face opponents that can get in their head. Yeah, totally. I mean, Jair Alexander was doing a fantastic job of, pissing us off. But to our benefit, pissing off Stefon Diggs is probably the worst thing you can do. Getting Stefon Diggs angry is 100% the worst thing you can do. He was already mad. Stefon Diggs was already fired up to start the game. Getting him even more upset was probably the worst thing. And we saw what happened. I mean, Stefon Diggs, he caught that touchdown from the sideline. I mean, the dude is. This is a very corny comparison. It's not a direct comparison. It's more about the attitude and personality. When I see Stefon Diggs fired up the way he has been this season, it kind of reminds me of that stupid Michael Jordan meme of I took that personally. Like, that's just the energy that Stefon Diggs is playing with. I don't know what Jair could have said, but whatever any of those Packers defensive backs said, it was not to their benefit. It was bad. Like, that's the last thing you want to do. So I think we handled it fine, honestly. I don't think at any points it got out of line. I know Gabe Davis took a unnecessary roughness penalty or something when he kind of shoved Jair in the back. That was irresponsible. But otherwise, I didn't think we got too out of hand. It's just chippiness that I think adds fuel to our fire, which is something that I don't know how teams haven't figured out yet. I mean, every single time a team pisses off Stefon Diggs, Josh Allen just throws it to him the next play, and it's most likely a touchdown. It's a common trend here. Not the first time it's happened. Tonight was just another instance, and this time I think it was Rasul Douglas. It could have been somebody else. I don't remember, but don't do that. Just don't do that. So I'm not really worried about that. I get so pissed off with Carolina Panthers because I talk trash too much. Yeah, that's funny. Mikey says, I think preventing run can be ugly for us sometimes. Other than that, I think we can be okay. Yeah, I mean, there really is no glaring issue with this football team. I think the biggest issue will be ourselves. At the end of the day, you know what? To answer your question, if we can't get out of our own way, then the Chiefs can, find ways to expose us. I think getting out of our own way is going to be a hole, if you will. That could be something that we struggle with because, we're not perfect. We saw it tonight. The whole second half, we struggled on both sides of the ball, many different times. So getting out of our own way is almost the best way to put my answer to that question, because the only team that's stopping us is ourselves at this point. It's literally ourselves and injuries. That's the only thing that's going to stop this team from winning a Super Bowl at this point. Oh, man. Josh Allen, 49 yards on the ground, 5. Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir. Wow, Tremaine Edmonds did have struggled tonight. Tremaine Edmonds did struggle tonight, but he had 16 total tackles. Tremaine Edmonds had 16 total tackles and a pass defend. Wow, okay. 13 solo, 16 total. Okay, so look, Tremaine Edmonds might have struggled. But 16 tackles in a game is still 16 tackles. All right. He probably could have had 24, 25 tackles, to be fair. But in his defense, he still did well. He was getting washed at the second level at points, but still, I think 16 tackles is still a pretty if that's a bad performance, that's a pretty good bad performance. If you know what I mean. Wayne says, does anyone think that New England is starting to play sneaky to climb to get that wild card? I thought that prior to last week. So going into that game against the Bears, the Patriots had won 2 games in a row. They beat the Browns, and they also beat somebody else. I don't really recall, but they won 2 games going to that primetime game against the Bears. And I'm thinking like, okay, this is when the Patriots start to randomly heat up and they go on this like very random win streak with a team that just is not good. And that's what I thought. I thought that's what was going to happen after they won those 2 games, and then you're getting the Bears on primetime. I mean, that was a win in my mind. If you would have held a gun to my head and said, who's winning this Monday Night Football game, I would have told you the New England Patriots without even thinking, and I would have been dead. I would have been dead after the fact. So, I kind of had that thought originally, Wayne, but then they lost that game. This week, they take down the New York Jets, which I thought that was a lock, similar to how I felt last week. About the Patriots. The New York Jets this week, they've lost their identity in Breece Hall. That was the guy they were really forming their offense around. And without Breece Hall, they obviously do not feel confident to have Zach Wilson pick this offense up and put it on its back. And we saw why today. Zach Wilson was terrible. Zach Wilson's not it. They're going to have to figure something out if they want to push for a playoff spot, because Zach Wilson's not it. They went out and traded for James Robinson because they know Zach Wilson can't do it. I would expect next week for the Jets, one of 2 things is going to happen. The Jets are either going to give James Robinson 40 to 50 carries, or that's exaggerated, but he's going to get a large workload, or they're going to have to start Joe Flacco or Mike White if he's even still on the roster. They're not going to be able to ride with Zach Wilson. They're not. It's just not going to work. He's the worst quarterback on the roster. It's embarrassing to say, but it's the truth. I need water. But going back to the point, I think the Patriots could, they won't sneak up for a wild card spot, but I think they'll end up finishing second in the division. I think the Jets are going to slip back down to 4th. Hot take. It might be a hot take because the Jets are 5-3. But I think that, the Patriots could sneak into the 3rd spot. The Dolphins, I think, will have the second spot on lock. But the 3rd spot will be up for grabs, and I think that's going to go to the Patriots for sure. Unironically, with that piss poor roster. My nose is stuffy. It's really bothering me. Oh, man. In the meantime, why don't we watch? Did I upload the play? No, I didn't. Why didn't I upload it? I managed to. I tried to be somewhat, and then they're not going to show up. Okay, never mind. I guess we're not going to do that. I wanted to show a couple of plays and run through the game, but I guess we don't have to do that at the moment. I think I have NFL Plus, and I was planning on running through the game, but they don't have the condensed game ready, so I don't want to have to skip through the commercials and stuff. So we'll keep the conversation running otherwise. Aaron Rodgers in the second half, in the 4th quarter more specifically, I was impressed. Going back to Pokemon's point earlier, I was impressed with Aaron Rodgers' performance down the stretch. He was making do with what he had. He was making the throws he needed to. I don't think at any point I've thought Aaron Rodgers has really looked bad. He just hasn't had help. The play calling hasn't been great because of the lacking assistance that he doesn't have. So, when he was given opportunities and when he saw a glimpse of daylight, Aaron Rodgers took it, and he looked good for what he was given. That deep ball touchdown to that Toure guy. I mean, he was able to work the pocket, use his eyes to draw safeties around, and pretty much pull our secondary by the strings and eventually find that guy open in the middle of the end zone. I mean, that's what Aaron Rodgers has always been good at, is, being able to work secondaries around on a broken play. And that's vintage Rodgers. So, this isn't a guy that I would consider washed or somebody that I think is playing at any other level than we're used to seeing him play at. It's just the fact that he's got no one to pass to. I mean, the Packers organization is going to need to help the guy out. If the Packers don't end up with either Chase Claypool, DJ Moore, Elijah Moore, or Brandon Cooks by the trade deadline, I would not be surprised if Aaron Rodgers was not a Packer after the season. I would not be surprised if he retired. I don't know what he's going to do, but there's no way he endures another season of this because he's clearly fed up at this point, and he's just done. Like there's just no way he can continue to deal with this. And if they somehow walk away from this deadline without another receiver, it's going to be a very long season for him. Do I think this is the end of Rodgers? Like I said, it depends. It depends. Honestly, the way I see it, if the Packers don't get a receiver here, that's going to be very, very determined. It's going to be a determining factor for Rodgers if they don't go out and try to help him. At this point, I would imagine he's done some bitching behind the scenes. How can he not? I know he's got this reputation of being quite the individual. We'll leave it at that. But, he's got to be complaining at this point. They've got to understand that he's not really throwing too much. There's not much separation deep down the field. I mean, teams can come out and man, and 99% of the time, they're in a blanket. So they're in a snuggie. I don't think it's the end of Rodgers physically. I think Rodgers is playing, like I said, at a level that is still extremely high. He's processing the game just as, well as he has before. He's physically still able to do it. I don't think there's any drop off there. It's just the fact that his offensive supporting cast hasn't been great. I think Matt LaFleur hasn't been great. Rodgers isn't done. His ability to play football, but I wouldn't be shocked if maybe he had an early retirement because he doesn't go anywhere else and he just can't continue to play on a team that just refuses to help him, because this is not the first time that we sit here and talk about how the Green Bay Packers need a receiver and how they not trade for a receiver, how they not draft a receiver, how they draft Jordan Love instead of drafting a receiver. Like, how did they not trade for a guy? I mean, this is a reoccurring conversation for this team. And if I was a Packers fan, man, I would not be too pleased with the way that things have gone over the last few weeks. Not great. Not a great stretch of games here, and it's mainly been because the pass catchers are just so lackluster. So I don't know. I don't think it's the end of Rodgers. I hope it's not, because I enjoy watching him play the game. So I'm hoping this organization doesn't completely ruin that, but we'll see. I think it's very determining based on what the Packers do in the next week or so. Josh Allen, 218, 13 for 25, 2 picks, 2 interceptions, 2 picks, 2 touchdowns, 75 quarterback rating. Who else looked impressive tonight that I wanted to touch on? Gregory Rousseau. Gregory Rousseau looked good tonight. I thought Greg Rousseau looked very good tonight. He's obviously gone, and he's been going in the right direction for his development with Von Miller, of course. That was kind of expected, but he's been a big beneficiary of the Von Miller acquisition, as everybody has. But I feel like Greg Rousseau is a player specifically that is really showing the benefit of that, as we all expected, of course. Same thing with Jordan Phillips. He had a good game tonight. He laid the lumber, man. Jordan Phillips laid the lumber on a couple guys. He destroyed Aaron Jones earlier in the game. Aaron Jones was running up the gut, and Jordan Phillips just came out of nowhere and blindsided the shit out of Aaron Jones. Jordan Phillips had a good game too. We also saw a Tim Settle sack, which I didn't expect to see, but we did. Right? It was Tim Settle. Right. Just to be sure. Quarterback hits. Yes, it was Tim Settle that had that quarterback sack. So Tim Settle, he had a good game. Gregory Rousseau, like I said, I enjoyed his game. Matt Milano, though, defensive MVP today. Matt Milano was 100% the defensive MVP. The guy was all over the field. He was shooting gaps like crazy. He was coming up and making tackles when he had to. I mean, Matt Milano has been playing at an all-pro level. He's definitely in the conversation for a top 10 linebacker in the NFL easy. I think from a broader landscape, from a national perspective, he might not be put in that conversation, but I mean, us internally watching the games on a week-to-week basis, Matt Milano is the guy that, he should be in consideration for, first team All-Pro. That's the level he's playing at. He's a rock on this defense. If it's, the rocks, Von Miller on the defensive line, Matt Milano on the second level. And then, of course, right now, just because Trey and Micah Hyde are both down, it's Jordan Player, who also left the game with an elbow injury, which is something to monitor. Actually, I want to look that up right now. what that news is, because that would not be good if Jordan Poyer went down as well. We would have to put freaking Trey White at we would have to put Trey White at safety. I'm just kidding. You guys can scroll my Twitter feed with me. How do I do this? Screen share, screen share, screen share, screen share. How do I do this? Cinema layout, picture in picture. Oh, present. Share screen. Share screen. Okay. Oh. Okay, there we go. This is interesting. Bills wide receiver Stephon Diggs on trash talking with Trey Alexander. I don't give an F who started. I finished it. I got the win. Damn straight. He had 0 yards on JR. Yeah, okay. I love reading Twitter. You guys want to scroll my Twitter feed with me? I want to see what the Jordan Poyer injury looking like. If there's any update on that. Bill safety Jordan Poyer said that hopefully the MRI is positive. He said that he felt a pop and it's different from the injury in camp. Well, that's not the most encouraging news. I was kind of hoping to see something like, yeah, it wasn't the most serious thing, but we left, ruled him out just because the game was, out of hand at that point. So that's not good. That's not, the most promising update. Wayne says, what I want to see is the Bills to sack Tom Brady, but for some reason Tampa is never on the Bills schedule. Look, Tampa Bay right now is pretty down bad, if we're being honest. Stephon Diggs on the trash talk. It was something I anticipated. Him doing the shit that he did. I don't give an F who started it. I don't get, man. Stephon Diggs has been a dog, man. He has been a dog as of late. Well, that's not the most encouraging news to hear on Jordan Poyer. I will say that. How do I stop screen? Okay. Oh boy. All right. Why did I close that tab out? I wanted that tab open. Dawson Knox. What's up, Sparrow? Nice to see you in here, man. If you got any thoughts you have on the game, definitely drop them in the comment section. I want to hear anybody's thoughts. We'll go for a little bit longer. It's freaking 12:32. Didn't even realize it's already freaking almost 1 a.m. Thank you guys for sticking around with me. It's freaking late, and you guys are sticking in here with me. I appreciate you all. It really means a lot. Why is that still white? But yeah, seriously, I really appreciate you guys sticking around with me in here. I definitely am happy to talk about the game. It's hard to Sunday night games. It's hard to do, a video during the days because I work, from 8 to 5. So then by the time it's hard to record a video. I could have recorded one right after the game, but I don't really have time to process my thoughts. So getting out raw thoughts right now, I think is, was a different twist, and I wanted to try it. I don't know if it's something I'll do in the future, but try it. Josh was doing stupid stuff at the end. Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. Josh Allen's Superman syndrome was coming back to bite him. He, for some reason, felt like he needed to do what he was doing, and I don't know why. Yeah, it was an interesting. He was making interesting decisions at points. Here we go. That's what I want. I like these different banners. That's much better. Yeah, I mean, at points, Josh Allen just was, he was trying stuff that wasn't warranted at that point in the game. If we were down, we were desperate for points, we were struggling to move the ball, I would understand. But yeah, I mean, Josh Allen definitely threw away a perfect second half to try and continue his MVP campaign. But, that might be a second half we look back at and say, if for, one reason or another, Josh Allen falls short of the MVP award, that could be a half we look back at and we're thinking like, oh, wow, I mean, if he doesn't come out and poop himself, we're probably talking about Josh Allen as the MVP right now. But hopefully, of course, he's still on track. But that's definitely a game that definitely got away from him, unfortunately, down the stretch there. Do you want OBJ to come out? Yeah, I do, actually. We were, talking about that earlier. I 100% am on board with OBJ coming to the Buffalo Bills. That was, we were touching on the fact that the Bills have apparently inquired for Christian McCaffrey. They sent over a second-round pick to Carolina before he got traded. It, of course, got declined. Not shocking, but they did kick the tires. They also called about Alvin Kamara, apparently, per reports, which is interesting. Very interesting report to hear, but we did. And not sure what really came to fruition with that, but obviously nothing as of right now. So that was interesting. But like I was saying earlier, I don't really think the running back position is where I think we need the upgrade. I only feel not worried, but I feel like there's a lack of trust from the slot wide receiver role with Isaiah McKenzie. I of course trust Khalil Shakir, I think, but it's still a very important piece of this offense, and I want the best guy to be in every spot. So I would 100% appreciate if we brought in a guy like Odell Beckham instead of feeling like we need to trade for a high profile running back. I think take the least expensive option to fill a hole that I think is the biggest. I don't think running back is the need. I think we can bring in Odell Beckham Jr. to do what he did with the Rams and fill a hole next to Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs that would make this offense damn near unstoppable. I think, in my opinion, I think Odell Beckham Jr. Improves the offense to a different level more than like hypothetically if we brought in Alvin Kamara. I think the needle is moved more with I lost my train of thought. I think the needle for this offense is moved more if we brought in OBJ instead of like a Kamara or some sort of running back upgrade. So yeah, I do think OBJ is definitely an option, and I do want him to come here to answer your question. Do you think Josh wanted to show out in primetime versus Rodgers? It's possible. I mean, I can see Josh, kind of wanted to put on a highlight. I know, I think the first half, the first half, he did a lot. I don't know if he felt like he had to do something to, do something flashy. Who knows? I don't know what he was thinking. I think it was just, at that point, the offense was struggling to move the ball. And for some reason, he felt like he needed to make a play, and he kind of overreached. And I don't know if it's necessarily because he wanted to show out. I mean, it could have been. I don't know if Josh Allen's that kind of guy, but yeah, I think it was just the fact that he felt like he had to overcompensate to move the ball. Don't know why. We were fine, but who knows? All right, we're approaching an hour here. It's almost 1 a.m. approaching the 1 a.m. mark. So I'm probably going to wrap it up here. If you guys have any final thoughts, be sure to drop them in the comments. I'll be happy to discuss them. I definitely want to cover any base that we haven't. If you got any comments, what trade would you want to happen to the Bills? Something I've been saying. Ooh, what did I just bite? I don't want the Bills to make any trades. Funny enough, I think we're fine. I don't think we need to trade for anybody, to be honest. But if we did, I wouldn't be mad, but I don't think we need to. I'm not really looking to want one. But if there was a trade to happen, I think Zach Moss is 100% gone by the trade deadline. He's barely active. When he was active tonight. Did dude even have a snap? Like, did Zach Moss have a snap? Did anybody at any point see Zach Moss on the field? I don't know. Good. I don't want Zach Moss on the field. That's exactly how it should be. But there's just no reason why he shouldn't be dealt. I don't know who would want him. I don't know what kind of compensation he'd be able to bring in. But yeah, no, I'm not thinking that Zach Moss remains on this team by the trade deadline. So I've been saying that the last couple of weeks. I think he's gone. So I don't want to trade for the Buffalo Bills to be going to get somebody, but I'd be happy to see us kind of ship someone out, to answer your question. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you stopping in as well. I really do appreciate you. You stuck with me the whole way, man, and I really appreciate it. Dropping your thoughts, your comments. It helps it's, of course, I could talk to myself. I could talk to the wall for 45 minutes, as long as possible, but it's always a lot easier when I got you guys to help me propel conversation. So I really appreciate you, coming on and stopping in. So I appreciate that a lot, man. But yeah, like I said, any other questions, definitely drop them in. I'm still debating if I should make an entire video on the game, but I wanted to try this out. And I definitely think this is something that I'm going to try doing in the future. Just do a live stream right after games. Preferably primetime games, because if the Bills are playing in an earlier window, I typically like to watch the rest of the game. So if the Bills are playing on any more primetime games, which I can't remember off the top of my head, I could definitely do more live streams after following the game. I think this is a good way to do things. Good way to bring in new ways to talk about content, just because it's a live stream. We can talk about thoughts. They're raw. And yeah, there we are. Gold. Get this man to 1,000 subscribers. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, Golden. I promise, man. And all of you guys that are here right now, and anybody that stopped in at any point, are going to be exactly why. So we're gonna get there. It's a road that I'm more than excited to continue down, and we're gonna get there. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when, and it's going to be just because of you guys. So, all right, I'm probably going to wrap it up. You guys have a very good night. Go Bills, as always. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Be sure to stop in the Cave on Tuesday. I'll plug one more thing. Cave on Tuesday night. I got another very awesome guest. I'm bringing my throat. I got another very awesome guest that I'm bringing on Tuesday. That'll be revealed on my Twitter. If you want to be sure to stop in for the Cave, 8 p.m. On YouTube, same place right here. The Cave, same show. So last plug. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. And as always, thank you for stopping in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and do all the fun stuff. And go Bills.